Welcome, everyone. Welcome in. It is a very special day today. Today is Bob Proctor's birthday. It would have been his 89th birthday. And I thought no better way to celebrate that together than to get together with his son, Brian Proctor, and talk about the book that Brian has just written all about his dad. And we have a special guest joining us today, Corey Kelly Proctor, who is Brian's beautiful wife. She's an amazing human, and we thought, oh, this will be just even better if Corey joins us. So hi, you guys. Welcome. How are you today?
Hey, Tommy, we're great.
Hey, Tommy, thank you so much for having us on here today.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Literally, I'd rather not be no place else I'd rather be than here with you guys today. So this is so cool. So thanks for being here. First of all, I think we should just dive right in and first just talk about the book. I mean, I think a lot of people who are tuning in today already have their copy. And so, for anybody that doesn't, I'm going to share a link here for you to go grab your copy to get it ordered, because you're definitely going to want to have this. And then there's some really cool free bonuses that you're giving away with it to Brian. So I've got the link here in the chat, but is there anything you want to say about getting the book, or also there's like a cool social media thing happening today. What's that about?
Well, you know what, Tommy, first off, thank you. Here's the book. And yeah, there we go.
Yeah, all three of us hold it up.
There we go.
Love it.
You know what? This is, as you know, this is a special day. Today is the day my father was born 89 years ago. And I really wanted to get this book out and in the public by his birthday, which it happened. And today is a big day because it's a really kind of a big launch day. And we really want to get this book ranked up on Amazon, get as many eyes on it as possible, and get it out there in the world. So, if you use Tommy's link there, get a copy of the book. I know you're going to like it. And the reason why I can say that is this book isn't about me. It's about my father. And it's truly about all the lessons that I learned from Dad growing up for 60 years, and how I applied them. And it'll show you how you can apply them in your life too. We've got some great bonuses. I'm going to do a live Q&A with everybody that's purchased the book. We've got several other bonuses there. You'll see when you click on the link. And we're just all about really delivering value, Tommy. I really want to honor who my father is. And I think this book does that in a great way. You've seen some of the responses.
Yeah.
Boy, we're getting amazing feedback on this. And it just, honestly, it just warms my heart.
And today is the day because, Tommy, like we do, Bob Proctor loved numbers and he loved pings in his email.
Yes.
And he would absolutely, and he loved birthdays. And he would love today all the energy around this book that is about how he lived his life, the principles he lived by. It's really the essence of Bob Proctor. And I know he's looking down on us, just cheering on the pinging and the numbers and let's make this go viral. And he loved that stuff.
Oh, I just feel his energy just swirling around. I've got chills. I just think he's so jazzed about all this. It's so cool. And I just want to say, I just want to applaud you publicly here, Brian, on the book, because it's so well done. I mean, I haven't read this version. I read an early version, or part of an early version, that was amazing. So I can only imagine just how rich this is. And we're going to be starting to read it next week. But what's so cool is how you've really made it almost like a workbook. Like, you can tell you've put so much thought into conveying these lessons that you learned from your dad and helping us to the reader to really be able to integrate and digest and absorb and embody these principles. And that's so cool. And then to top it off, one of the bonuses that you offer is a workbook, which I downloaded and printed last night, which I'm so excited to go through. So this is so cool. It's almost like a course for $20.
That's right. Yeah. One thing I can remember, working with Dad, the one thing I said to him always, I said, Dad, we need to do something that's inexpensive that the masses can get a hold of and really learn from you. And I don't know, here's my chance. Here's my chance. $19, you get the book, you get the workbook, you get all kinds of things. And it is truly everything I've learned from my father. Corey and I live really a magical life. And it is because of everything we learned from Dad.
Yeah.
It's so this book really holds it all. So, I appreciate all of this.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so cool. And speaking of that, like a low cost way to, get access to this information, watch to the end here, folks, because I've got something to share with you at the end that's going to like take that even to like another level that we want to talk to you about. So anyway, I want to know, Brian, exactly how long was this book in the making? Like, when did you even get the idea to write this book?
Well, it was actually Corey that gave me the idea about it.
Oh, of course it was.
Yeah. She's my ideal girl, that's for sure. So this book is 4 years in the making. Wow. I started this about 4 years ago. Corey and I were talking, and I'd been talking about writing a book, but I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. And I don't remember where we were, but boy, I remember her looking at me and she says, Brian, everybody in the seminars are always asking you, what's it like to have Bob Proctor as a father? Yep. Why don't you write about that? And it was like, I mean, that makes sense. So I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start just writing about what I learned from Dad over years. And Dad was around when I started writing this. He knew I was writing it. We didn't know what the title was going to be at that time, but we had a lot of fun with it. Dad and I would get on the phone and he'd say, what are you writing about today? And because every morning I would write just a little bit, and I'd bounce ideas off of him. He gave me all kinds of other great ideas to add into the book. We talked about so many things, and he gave me his perspective and his viewpoint on, different times in my life and what we did and why we did it. So I was able to add it all into the book. I was probably halfway through, I guess, maybe when he passed away.
Wow.
The crazy thing was, as I was writing it, he kept telling me, Brian, take your time, take your time. Don't rush this thing. And I even said in the book, I often wonder if he knew he wasn't going to be around when the book came out, which is, it kind of hurts a little bit, but I know he's here and I know he sees what's going on. And so once he passed, it took me a little bit to get writing again, because it was hard. So as you've read, the first chapter in the book is really, it's a tough.
I call it beautiful and brutal.
Yeah. It was a tough chapter. Even thinking about it right now gets me a little emotional.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I wrote after he passed, because I really felt that needed to be expressed, and people needed to see who my father was in his worst of times. So I think it's really something. The cool thing is, the title for this book came to me in the middle of the night. And one of the things Dad always said to me, Tommy, he says, just before he passed, he said, Brian, keep talking to me, even when I'm gone, keep talking. And you will hear me talk back to you in your intuition, in your thoughts, whatever you allow. And so I took that to heart, and I do talk to him every day. It's not always easy, but I do. And I'll never forget, this was, I don't know, maybe a year ago. I'm not really sure.
I don't even know if it was that long ago.
Yeah.
And we had been kind of playing with different titles, and nothing was like resonating like that. Yeah, that's it. And you just woke up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I got the title last night.
Yeah. I was dreaming about Dad. I don't remember exactly what the dream was about, but I woke up with this, I don't know, just a real clarity and a real vision that the title should be My Father Knew the Secret. And it just felt so right. Let's face it, the movie The Secret and the book really propelled my father to a whole nother level in the world as far as exposure is concerned. And so I just thought, I don't know.
We knew that was
right.
it. Yeah. I mean, as soon as he said it, we were like, oh my God, that's it. That's the title.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, I feel that came from Dad,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I remember when you first told me the title, and I was like, oh yeah, like you couldn't have picked a better one. Like that was so good. And for those, what?
Did we pick it? I don't know.
Well, yeah,
I
Bob.
think it was handed to us.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah. And for those who haven't got the book yet or haven't looked at it yet, that first chapter is called Dad's Final Lesson, and it's kind of the story of the last few weeks.
Last couple 2 weeks tops. Yeah.
And it's I applaud you for including that here, because I think it is something that's needed to be expressed, and it's something that everyone who loved Bob and wasn't really sure, needed to know, and it is hard to read, but it's, I mean, I don't even, I'm sure I'm going to be crying through all of it again, but it's like at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's it just feels good to know, and there's so many beautiful parts of that chapter and that story, and it just showed so much of like who he really was, that we all got to see. And you always wonder, is the guru or whatever, the same, off stage as on, and that just proves that point that he so was. So thank you for writing that.
No, it felt right. It felt good. And I really do think, that's part of the question everybody asked me, what's Bob Proctor really like? And I feel that this really shows who my father was aside from the stage.
Absolutely.
I think that chapter specifically is just like you said, Tommy, it needed to be included.
Yeah.
People needed that. Bob was loved. He was loved by so many, and hearts were hurting, and people needed to know that story.
Yeah. And I love that it's first. It's the perfect thing, the final lesson to be the first thing out of the gate. So I love it. I'm curious, did he get to read any of this before, early versions? Did he read any of it?
Well, he didn't get to read an actual version of the book.
Yeah.
But he did read a few chapters,
Okay.
Which was really cool. I think what warmed my heart more than anything was the recognition of how much he really liked what I had written.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I wouldn't say he was surprised at what I wrote, but I think he was kind of maybe surprised. He was, I guess, pleasantly surprised at the depth that I went into these lessons and stories. And it made, I think what it did more than anything, Tommy, it made him feel good. It allowed him to recognize what he did for me. Yeah. And I think that was something special in itself.
I remember him saying when we were in Toronto once talking about the book that it carried a lot of emotional impact, and that was going to be powerful.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's so many people that were in Bob's orbit, like are people who want to be authors or have become authors, and kind of like the prize jewel was securing a Bob Proctor foreword to a book. I'm curious, did you ever ask him to write the foreword? Was that in the plans?
Well, no, it wasn't actually.
I don't think we got that far.
Yeah, we didn't really get that far.
Okay.
We weren't there yet. We weren't ready for that. And I think it might have been a little odd having him write to it. Yeah. I get it.
I think it's perfect the way it is. But I was just curious, like, was that ever a conversation that was had or anything?
It really wasn't a conversation. And as you know, Price Pritchett, who wrote the foreword to the book. And it was an honor. Price doesn't do this for people. It's hard to get him on video or anything. And
it's such a beautiful foreword.
Yeah. Price Pritchett's book was one of Dad's favorite books, and he talked about it all the time. So I thought, who better to write the foreword than Price? I can remember we had dinner with Price and Dad in LA after an event. He came out for an event, and he was just the nicest, kindest man. So, there's a lot of people that could have written the foreword for sure. And it was a hard decision because there's some people I was worried they would take offense if I didn't ask them. I just felt that Price was the right person.
He was the right person.
It felt good.
Yeah, feels perfect to me. When I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. There's a few rare moments where we had Bob and Price together on screen, talking, and it was just magical to see. So
wasn't it? Oh my gosh. They were just, it was a lot of good energy there with the two of them on screen.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't read it yet, but I see that there's another chapter in here about a very special lady who I see us watching right now, Miss Gina Hayden. I wanted to talk about Gina really quick. What do you want to talk about Gina?
Well, here's the deal. This book could not have been, oh, I'm going to get emotional now. This book, it could not have been complete without Gina's message. Gina, for those of you that don't know, not only was Gina's dad's personal assistant, but she was his go-to for everything and anything. And Gina, more than anybody, helped craft Dad's message. She helped everything that Dad did, all of his PowerPoints and how he taught. Gina was a big part of. So it just didn't feel right to not have Gina in here. And I'll tell you how special she was, Tommy. Gina is like a sister to me.
Yeah.
And she was like a daughter to Dad. So much so that when Gina married Randy, Dad was the one that walked her down the aisle and gave her away. It was special. And so, it felt good to have Gina's message in the book and her
insight.
Yeah, her insight into
perspective.
who Dad was and he meant.
Yeah, really, Gina really saw Bob's genius develop and unfold. I mean, she was with him for 36 and a half years. Right there with him, helping him create and develop those programs that we all enjoy today. So she's a very important part of the history and all of it. So
when I read what Gina wrote, I had tears and I had laughter.
No doubt.
And I think everybody that gets a copy of the book, once you see that, you'll get it. It really it helped anchor the book.
And she really helped us with reviewing a lot of the stories because she was there for him. And that chalkboard story, oh my gosh, we got such a good laugh about that story with Gina because of all the memories of the chalkboard.
I love those stories.
It's been fun.
That's so good. Yeah, well, I think too, Gina, if you're listening, I see you are. Hint, hint. There's probably a book in you on the same someday. So just saying. Okay, cool. Well, I want to ask you some more questions, just to dig a little more into what it was like growing up with your dad. Even though you have a whole book about it here, but I wonder, like, at what age did you kind of realize that your dad wasn't like other dads, and like when did you realize kind of what he did for a living, and what did you think about all that?
I mean, I always knew what he did for a living. I didn't think it was a big deal as a kid, because here's the thing: he was always just Dad to me. So I didn't really. Do you want to know the real answer, Tommy? I always knew he was something special, and I knew he was well received. The honest answer is I didn't realize what a big deal he was until after he passed away. When to me, he was always Dad. When I saw the messages of condolence that started coming in, and the people starting to write about what he did for them, that just that more than I think any time made me aware of really how special and who he was. He's always been special to me, but he's been Dad to me, not just Dad, but he's Dad. He was my father, and I am so grateful for the relationship I had with him. It was truly something special. We were more than just father-son. But when I saw those condolence messages coming in by the thousands upon thousands, I was hurting at that time really bad. And reading those, I read them. It was so nice. That's I think if I'm to be really honest, that's when I realized what a big deal he was in the world.
Yeah. Wow.
Difference made really all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the messages were so touching. They were so heartfelt. They really meant so much to the family.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, obviously he had a massive impact to countless millions, millions and millions of people's lives while he was alive. But I've often had this thought in the last couple of years that, like, like people that have achieved, sainthood or something, that doesn't happen until after they're gone. And I feel like Bob's impact will be even greater now, somehow.
Sure.
And I think this book is a part of that, like a big part of that. So,
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. That writing this book was really my way of carrying on his message.
yeah, yeah,
It felt right. And it feels good.
yeah, yeah. Well, your dad was kind of like a machine in how he approached life, and just, he had like, he was just always moving forward, achieving, bigger, better, faster. Like, what do you think was what was driving him?
I wished I could say I think it was just part of his personality. He was a driven man. When I was writing the book, it came to me. I was writing about, I don't know if you ever saw him play the yo-yo, and I wrote a chapter on the yo-yo, and really the meaning to it was all about goal achieving. And that's when it hit us that, boy, Dad had that drive when he was a kid playing the yo-yo. But I don't think it came out until really later. But that's when I realized that he had a different drive than most. And when his life changed, when he got a hold of, this positive material, his life changed so dramatically that I don't know, it created a mission within him that he had to make sure everybody in the world knew what they were capable of, because he felt that he wasn't much of anything as a man and was actually on a failing track. And, in a swoop of a year, his life turned and he became a great success, and he just kept building on it. Well, it was his mission to teach people. Yeah. So, watching him work, when he'd get an idea, I mean, better than anybody, man, he was like on it.
Yeah, it was so cool to see.
It really was. And I'll tell you why that was. He had big goals. He had lofty goals.
Yeah.
And he didn't know how he was going to achieve them, but he knew that if he just kept stepping out and doing the extreme, the crazy stuff, he would get there. And that's just part of who he was.
Yeah. What I found so interesting too is, like, he would teach about purpose, vision, goals, stuff like that. And he had a purpose written down, but like, if you ever asked him, like, why are you doing this? He would say, I don't really know. And if I do, I probably wouldn't want to. Like, if I knew why, I probably wouldn't want to anymore. So I'm not concerned about that. I just want to. So here I go.
Yeah. But his gift was he truly cared for people.
Yes.
And if you were in his orbit, boy, you knew it.
Yeah.
And he really wanted to impact lives, whether it's people like us that was close to him, or people that are maybe watching this right now that didn't know him personally. Boy, he was still doing whatever he could to impact your life.
Yeah.
And that was just part of who he was.
That's one of the things I love about the book, is when you say that it's really about creating value in relationships, because we all know Bob in a different way. But that was the core, and maybe not everybody understood that was the core of Bob, but the core was love and relationships and how you treat others. And I think in the book, bringing everything back to that was really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. I think he was just so genuinely, like, flabbergasted by what he felt, how his life changed, how he changed his life. And you could just see that he was just so, driven to, like, if I can just help even one more person get even a drop of what I've got, then it's all worth it, And so it was just like drop after drop, like, let's just keep,
Yeah. And he saw it happening. I mean, he
Yeah.
could see people's lives changing, and he saw the difference he was making. And I know that drove him as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, Brian, if, growing up with Bob Proctor, did he teach you how to set goals, like, in the same way that he teaches it in the seminar, or, like, how did he teach you about goals?
Yeah, he really did. And you know what? I think I write about it. Back in the early days, he had a seminar just called The Goal Achiever. And that was it was my favorite seminar, because I knew, like, back when I was in real estate, my God, I'd go to that seminar, I'd come back out, I'd be selling real estate like there was no tomorrow. It was just like crazy. he always taught me to set lofty goals, and not a goal that I knew how to achieve. He always said there's no inspiration in setting a goal for something that you already know how to achieve.
Mhm.
You need to set a goal for something that drives you, that excites you, that you have no idea how you're going to get to it. And he taught me that stuff right from when I was young, as far back as I can remember. And it was, I don't know. It was always fun. He just was really big on
And
that.
it was something we always had to think about, because you knew he was always going to ask you, what's
Yeah.
your goal? What are you doing? Tell me your goal. So we had to be
Well,
ready.
And
Yeah.
here's the fun thing. A lot of times when people don't have a goal, or they have a goal that's not inspiring enough, you just kind of go by your days. It's just day after day in a bit of a routine. And Dad always knew if I had a lofty goal or not, because if I didn't, he would say, Brian, what are you doing?
Tell me your goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would get me back excited about something. And he always had a thing he said to me. He says, when you pick a goal, just imagine you've got Aladdin's lamp and you can rub it and you can pick whatever you want, or you have a magic wand. What is it, if you could have anything, you would pick? And I thought, boy, that's a good, because so often we let our limitations pick that goal. And he was always about, take away the limitations. What is it you really want? What do you want to go after? Like, I have goals with this book. I mean, big goals, that I want to see it right at the top of all the bestseller lists.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty lofty goal. Do I know how that's going to happen? Not a clue. But what I learned from Dad is that you will just keep stepping out and doing whatever it takes. And Tommy, you know better than anybody, I'm not real great at getting on stage or being here on camera like
Well,
this.
I disagree, but
Well, it's not my thing. But
yet.
yes.
Well, I think it's different now, because the subject matter is your dad.
It's Dad.
Like, that's your favorite subject.
But here's the cool thing. I am willing to step out and do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I've learned that from Dad. If I have something that inspires and drives me, I will step out and do the uncomfortable. I'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. That's when growth happens. And that's what Dad always taught.
Yeah, it's so true. I love it. I'm curious because, your dad he was a really chill dude for the most part. He was just, yeah, like rarely ever upset. But I was just curious, like, what's a story about a time where did you ever see your dad angry?
Well, I mean, he was a redhead, I can go back a long time, and I can think of one time that I got him pretty angry. It is a funny story, but I was just a little kid. I was probably 7 years old, maybe even younger than that. I'll never forget this. It was bedtime. And, here's the prank in a young boy. I hid underneath my sister's bed. And I waited for her to crawl into bed for bedtime. She crawled into bed. And once she was all comfortable in bed, I reached up around her and grabbed her. Well, that didn't go over so well. If there's one time I saw Dad angry, that was it, because I had scared the bejeebies out of my sister. But gosh, that's, when I think back, that's really one of the only big ones I can think of. He always had control of his emotions. Yeah. And he taught it in the seminars. He had I got the coin around here somewhere. He had the react respond coin. And he taught that. He says, when we react, we are out of control. We're not in control of our emotions and our thoughts. When we respond, we're in control. And it was always just such a, I don't know, he was really good at that. There's a great story when he and Linda were first married. Dad was writing the You Were Born Rich book. Right. And he had that book in a big, I guess, a big envelope folder that he was in New York, I believe, and he was looking for a publisher. And he was in a taxi and he had the book with him and he left it in the taxi. And it didn't have his name or anything on it. and he lost it. And that was the only thing he had, because back in those days, there wasn't, he hand wrote it.
Yeah.
And if there was a time he could have been angry or angry at himself, that could have been it. And I'll never forget his response to it. He said to Linda, and he's talked about the story many times after, he says, you know, obviously the book wasn't good enough. So maybe there's a better version that I will write now because of that.
And he started over.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
you know, that's his reaction. So he, you know, he was really special that he always had control of his thoughts, and
Yeah.
that's a gift.
Yeah, it really was. I would say that's probably one of the most profound things I learned from him, was that, like, in situations like that, if it's really bad, it's got to be really good somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, one of his favorite statements is, "It is what it is."
Yep.
And when things happen that weren't right, just say, "It is what it is," and he'd look for the good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. I love that you have a section in the book dedicated towards laughter and humor, because, I mean, your dad was someone that, I mean, almost one of the funniest people I've ever met. Like, well, maybe not like tell a joke funny, but like I've laughed harder than I've laughed at other things before by stuff that your dad has said and done. And he was just so quick and sharp and funny, even when I don't think he was really trying to be.
Right.
But I just want to talk a little bit about that. Like, what were things that just like made your dad laugh the most?
God, anything could make him laugh. He loved a good joke for sure. He one of the great things, he always could find the humor in a situation, even when it wasn't good. He could find the humor. And as you know, Dad had a laugh that was very infectious. Well, he used to tell a story, and I put this in the book. My nan, my grandmother, Dad's mother. Dad's mom was in the hospital, and she was about to go. And she had been out of it, unconscious for a long time. And one of the nurses told Dad when he was there with her, said, sometimes you need to let the person you love know that it's okay to leave, that it's okay to go. And so Dad took that message, and he was there in the dark hospital room with Nan, and she was asleep or unconscious, whatever it was. Well, he whispered in her, and she hadn't been conscious for a couple of days. He whispered in her ear, "Mom, it's okay to go. It's okay to leave." Well, Nan woke up, her eyes opened up, she lifted her head, "Where are we going?" And whenever Dad told that story, he had the best belly laugh. And there's a situation that was actually really sad, not very nice, but he found the humor in it. You know, and that's kind of who he was. He could find the humor in anything. And it was
he loved a good story too.
Yeah.
I had several stories. He'd say, "Tell me that story again." And every time I would tell him that story, he would give us that laugh that we all love so much.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I want it as like a ringtone. Like, what's another story, Brian, where you were like, you know, rolling on the floor laughing about something he said?
Oh gosh. Well, here's something I did that boy did he laugh at. And you know, when we were younger, at Dad's house, they have a sauna. And in the wintertime, we used to get in the sauna, and then we go out and roll in the sno. And actually, I have an even better one. That was a good story, but I'll tell you this.
Both.
I'd get all hot, and I ran out and I jumped in the snow. I was just wearing my underwear, and I leaped in the snow. Well, Toronto weather, you know, it's not, it gets warmer and then cools down again. Well, the snow had this upper crust that I guess had gotten warm a little bit, and then it got cold, hardened, and it was like,
oh no,
it was like razor blades. And I leaped into this, and I was like, "Oh my God, it hurt!" And boy, did he laugh! But one of the better ones was, I used to go swimming when I lived at home when I was, you know, younger. I'd go swimming every morning in the pool, and they always had the pool heated up really nice. And Dad and Linda's bedroom was right by the pool.
And there was a diving board.
There was a diving board. And I guess it had gotten into fall, and it was getting expensive to heat this pool. So I guess they took it off and didn't tell anybody. Dad tells a story. He remembers laying in bed with Linda, and they heard the diving board go boing, boing, boing. and heard me jump in and then scream. Well, they started laughing. That was the funniest thing he'd ever experienced. He says, "Oh, we didn't tell Brian that we turned the heat off." And, he could just find funny things. It was, it was good. It was
Yeah. That was like my favorite thing to do, would like literally was to hear him laugh or to make him laugh. I loved anytime I could make him laugh. That was like it's like a badge,
And he was easy to make laugh. Like,
Yeah, it's true.
laughter came easily to him, which was such a good quality.
Yeah, it did. I'm about a passenger with your dad driving.
You cut out.
You cut out, Tommy. I couldn't hear you.
It says my internet's unstable. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yep.
What was your experience like being a passenger with your dad driving?
It was never a good experience.
Terrifying.
Yeah. If anybody knows Dad, he had one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, and we drove, and it was like poop, 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 and
Whenever I fly into Toronto, he'd send me a text, "I'm going to pick you up." And I'd be like, "Please, no, please, no."
Here's the crazy thing. I always thought Dad was going to get in an accident, and he never got in an accident. Nope. He was not a great driver.
Tell the story about when they were in he and Linda were driving in the US, and he thought it was kilometers. And he was driving like over 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And Linda's like, "You're going too fast, Bob." And he said, "No, I'm only going, whatever kilometers were." And she said, "It's miles per hour."
Yeah, because in Canada, everything's in kilometers. So, 100 kilometers an hour is the typical posted speed on a highway in Canada, which is 60 miles. So, yeah, he was.
I take it you've been a passenger in the car.
A few times. And, I mean, I loved it because I always felt like I understood that he had this energy, this aura that he's taken care of, he's protected. And so I never felt in danger or anything. I was just like, "Oh my God, this is so fun. I need to buckle my seatbelt though."
I don't know. I was always just hanging on.
Yeah.
When you say that he used to do that before a flight. We'd get on the airplane with him and he would close his eyes and he'd cover the airplane in energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really beautiful to watch.
Oh, that's cool. I never saw that. Yeah, that's awesome. But that's how it felt. It was just, I always felt safe, but like, yeah. So we're going to.
But terrified at the same time.
Literally like a theme park ride.
That's a good description.
Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was so cool about him and kind of how he operated, especially in like terms of like as being a coach, is that like he was usually like rarely would he ever just come out and like give you the answer. He would like help you discover your own answers and things. And I'm just wondering about times where that happened, in your relationship with him, maybe times where, because sometimes that'd be a little infuriating too. Like, "Can you just tell me the answer?" Like,
right.
And then it'd be like, not going to tell, but then I'm wondering if there are other times where maybe as a father, he like just couldn't help himself. And he was like, "No, this is what you need to do, Brian."
You know what? He was kind of interesting that way. He never dictated what I should or shouldn't do. Which was kind of cool. Like you say, though, there was times that was like, "Dad, just tell me what I should do." But he didn't. He always let me discover for myself whatever it was that I was to discover.
And make the mistakes.
Yeah, make the mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
He was really encouraging that way in a unique way. And like, I remember when I was after real estate, I came back and worked with Dad again. And I worked with him then for, I don't know, 25, 30 years. But I remember when I first came back and started working with him, I was selling the seminars at the time, and I was not enjoying it. And here's the cool thing with that. He says, "Then don't sell the seminars, find something else to do."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, what should that be?" He says, "I don't know, Brian, but you got to find out what your gift is and how you can contribute." And he let me find my gift and contribute. And when I first started, I started email building back in like 2000, when building an email was not a thing. Nobody was doing it at that time. And I remember he even looked at me like, "I'm not so sure that's a good idea." But he supported me.
Yeah.
And it turned into obviously a really good idea, because it was before anybody was doing it. So we were ready when things happened, that people could get on our list and we could deliver valuable content. He was always just good that way. I will tell you one thing though, it was tough as a teenager. Boy, you were doing things, you couldn't get away with anything because Dad could always look right through you. But
Oh, tell me a time.
oh God, I mean, just, if you're out too late, what were you doing, kind of thing, and you make up some lame excuse, and
You always knew he knew.
he knew.
But how would he say it though? I bet he was just real chill.
You know what, Tommy? It wasn't in what he said. It was how he looked at you. It was just in his look. He just knew. And I'm sure you know that. Yeah, exactly. But the great thing with Dad was that he was always encouraging, and he was always about you discovering whatever it was for yourself in your own way, because that's how we learn.
Yeah.
And I pulled some things that probably weren't great moves when I was younger, that he could have gotten angry at me over, certainly disappointed in, whatever it may be. He was never that way with me. He was always, you know what, Brian, that maybe wasn't such a good thing you did, but let's look at the good to this, and what good can come out of this. And that's how he was. That's how he lived life. And it was a pretty special thing. And I wrote a chapter in the book called Looking Through Rose-Colored Glasses. And I lived that way of life, and I learned that from him. I think Dad always lived looking at life through rose-colored glasses. Even when things weren't great, he'd always find the good in it. And that's a gift. Not everybody lives that way. And I think the world is a better place when we can live from that point of view. And that's something great that Dad always taught me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this same vein, as we're kind of talking about here, he was pretty imperturbable, like his feathers rarely got ruffled, and he taught, respond versus react and stuff like that. And I'm just wondering if there were ever, was there ever a time that there was a situation where maybe, I don't know, a few family members or something where it was kind of a distressing thing and people were freaking out, and he was just like chill, and like what that was like, like learning by kind of observation, was there ever a moment where you're just like, wow, look at how he just, didn't react in that when we were all freaking out or something? Is there any?
Well, I can think of many situations, and you'll know better than anybody, because, we'd be having live seminars, and Dad was up on stage, and you were in the back of the room with obviously a whole team of people, and something didn't go right, or his clicker wasn't working, and things weren't wrong. It never flustered him. It never threw him off.
Yeah.
He would stand there calmly and wait for something to be corrected, or let you come up to do whatever needed to be done. And that was a gift. Dad was always calm around that stuff. And I mean, you experienced it when things didn't go right technically. And, let's face it, Dad was not great in the technical realm, and things didn't always go right. He never seemed to get flustered. He was always calm about it. He said, well, it is. Yeah. And if things couldn't get fixed, he'd say, well, that's okay. And he would just move on to something else.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah. It was, and to me, watching that, like I can remember some of those seminars, Corey and I sitting off to the side of the room and watching him, and watching how he handled it in front of a room, in front of people. He was teaching a lesson without even teaching a lesson, by the way he responded to situations. And that was kind of cool.
That was my, honestly, like favorite part about working with him, that I consider the greatest gift I ever got, that I couldn't have never have bought, was just being able to observe him and see, how he handled situations, and just, and how, I think, to my next question, how like genuinely generous he was, not just monetarily or whatever, but with his time and his presence and his attention. And I just want to know, like, some maybe a story about where you saw this unconditional demonstration of generosity. He was always like talking to like service people, and making time and making everyone feel special, make me feel important, depression increase, all of that stuff. Like, what's a story of a time where you observed that was really, especially
really, by it? Yeah. It's really easy, Tommy. You know, Dad was when a lot of people, when they ask me, you know, what is one of the greatest gifts about your father? And I always say it was his generosity. And anybody that really knew him, he was such a generous man. Dad always said, you know, money will just make you more of what you are.
Mhm.
And when Dad started to earn like really, really big money, he just became a kinder person and more generous person. That's who he was. So here's a fun thing. For years, Dad always had a stash. And this was a stash of money that he had hidden. And I'm not sure why, but I always knew where the stash was. Dad always made sure I knew where it was.
He liked cash.
Yeah, he liked
He did.
He liked having cash.
and he would even hide this from Linda, his wife. And he always had this stash. I think he always let me know where it was just in case something happened to him that, you know, somebody would know where it was. So it was always kind of a joke between the two of us. Well, here's a cool thing. When at the end, when Dad was not doing well, and he had a very substantial stash, he would, if anything was happening, it was somebody working around the house, or a niece or a nephew or some relative, or it was kind of it happened a lot, especially at the end. He would whisper in my ear. He would say, Brian, go, you know, go get $1,000 or go get $5,000 and give it to this person.
It'll make a difference.
It'll make a difference.
Yeah.
I remember somebody was just getting into a home and they didn't have any money to get furniture. Dad said to me, Brian, go get $5,000 and give it to this person so that they can get some furniture. He didn't hoard it for himself. He was always freely giving to wherever. And for me, it was an honor that he trusted me with that. And it was fun for me to be his, I don't know, his muse, I guess, at that point, but to be able to go and get money to give to somebody that needed it, that didn't have it, to help them, whether it was a gardener or somebody fixing something, or like I say, it was there were so many people, and this was not a one-off, once in a while kind of thing. This was constant. And at the end, this was really constant. He kept saying to me, how much more is there? And I'd tell him, and there was a lot. And he'd say, okay, go get this for that person or this person. And it warmed my heart.
Wow.
You know, he was just always so kind to anybody that was in his influence, in his sphere. Boy, he was just kind to.
What kind of a funny story, saying, you know, how he loved having cash. One year, Brian got him a cash counter for his birthday.
Yes.
And Bob would call every morning, and Brian and Bob would talk, and he'd say, put the phone on speaker. And we'd put it on speaker and we'd hear, and he goes, you know what that's the sound of? And it was his cash counter, counting his cash.
Counting the bills.
Counting the bills.
I got him an actual professional banking.
I know, I've seen it. I love it. Yeah.
Have you seen it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love that thing.
Yeah.
He'd pull it out, put it on his desk.
Yeah, sometimes he'd call and I'd just answer and there was no voice, and all of a sudden I'd hear this. And it was, man, he loved it. He just loved that.
Yeah. I love that.
Funny.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, well, given that today's his birthday, I thought let's have a little discussion about how he liked to celebrate birthdays, his own and other people's. What was that like?
It's always fun. So Dad, if it was somebody that he knew and it was their birthday, you were going to get a phone call and he was going to sing happy birthday to you. And he would sing the entire happy birthday song. I'm sure you experienced it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't pick up, he would leave that message on your answering machine.
That's right.
He loved birthdays. And I remember when I called him, I had to sing happy birthday to him and he would laugh. He would just love it.
Yeah.
He loved birthdays. So today is a special day. And it's a special day to celebrate Dad. You know, one of the places he loved was Vegas. He loved going to Vegas. We had several of his birthdays in Vegas.
Such good memories.
He loved the Bellagio.
Yeah. You know, his wife, Linda, is actually in Las Vegas right now.
Oh, good.
Celebrating Dad's birthday. which is really,
I
That's
have
perfect.
a birthday story that also speaks to just how calm and generous he was. I was at an event in Toronto with him. He was I was with him, walking with him. He was about to get on stage, and I mentioned that it was my son's birthday. And he goes, "Oh, it's Spencer's birthday. Let's go make a video." And so I'm like, no, you need to get on stage. Like, this is the time. We'll do it later. He's like, we can do it. We can do it. We go outside, and I still have it, of course. And we filmed Bob, well, both of us singing happy birthday to Spencer. And it's like, he just was so, he just loved birthdays, and he wanted to make sure you felt special.
Mhm.
Really wanted to make sure that it was your special day and you felt it. So
yeah, that's where, it's fun today to celebrate him, because birthdays were a special day for him. And, man, I just, I miss my father.
Oh,
but
you know what? I think it was about 6 years ago on his birthday. You'll remember this, Tommy. We got his Facebook to 1 million. Remember?
Yeah. Yep.
On his birthday. Oh my gosh, he was so excited. Again, Bob loved the numbers.
Yep.
And I remember we were in Alaska at the time, and we were on the phone with him, and he was calling like every hour.
Mhm.
Okay, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? And we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and we hit 1 million on his birthday. And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a really big deal.
I remember. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah.
Well, I just have a couple more questions, and we
Sure.
can wrap this up. I got a question that was sent in from a friend this morning, and I thought it would be a great question to ask you. Is there anything that you wish you had asked him when he was still with us physically?
So here's the gift, Tommy.
Mhm.
Ooh, you get me on these emotional ones sometimes. The gift was, we knew Dad was going, and he knew he was going. So Dad and we spent a lot of time together at the end. I can remember in the ICU room, I was in there for hours upon hours. The nurses never kicked me out because they knew he was going. They had a strict 1 hour or 1.5 hour visiting policy, but as long as I was quiet and in there with them, they didn't care. Dad and I got to say everything to each other that we wanted to, both of us, both ways. So you know what? There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I'd think, oh God. And if something came up now that I'd think, wow, what would he say? You know what? As crazy as it sounds, I just go into a quiet place and I talk to him, and that answer comes. I feel him.
Yeah.
But I was gifted, and that's how I feel. I was gifted with the fact that we got to say everything to each other that we could have possibly said. And I have memories that Corey knows, but I don't share with hardly anybody else, really. Some of the things that Dad said to me that touched me so deeply. I was very, very lucky that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad that, not a lot of people are not, sometimes people don't get to say goodbye and not have things left unsaid. And I'm so glad you guys got to say everything that needed to be said and everything. So that's so good. Well, final question. What's next, Brian?
Did Bob tell you to say that?
Probably so.
So here's something kind of cool, Tommy. And I wrote about it. It used to drive me crazy when I was younger and I'd accomplished something really big. And Dad would say, congratulations. And then that was it. And it was like, what are you doing now? What's next? And it was like, Dad, let's celebrate but he was always about what's next, because you got to keep growing. It was kind of a cool thing when I think about it. So right now, what is next? Well, this moment, and today especially, is just about it's about getting this book out there.
Yeah.
It's about getting this book out there. And if I'm focused on what's next, I'm not yet. Because right now I want this book to be a monster bestseller, and not for me, because I think I said earlier, the book isn't about me, it's about Dad. I want this out there because it carries on the memory of my father, I think in such a unique way that has not existed before. So right now, the next is just to be an absolute bestseller with this book. I want this book in as many hands as is possible.
Yeah.
What falls after that, I'm not sure yet, but something good will come. But right now, I want to see this book in the hands of so many people all around the world. You know, the feedback I'm getting, and I know, Tommy, you've seen some of it, has just been, it's been so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's warmed my heart to see what has come back from this.
Yeah, I mean, so many comments I've seen people, I got my book, and then a few hours later, like, oh my God, I read and I'm in tears, or it's like amazing, like such good stuff.
Yeah, if you have your book, please take a picture
Yes.
with it, post it, and tag Brian in it so we can
Yeah.
share it.
Yeah.
Let's just really create an energy today around,
Yeah.
happy birthday, Bob.
Yeah. I forget if we kind of hit the nail on the head on that earlier. So take your copy of your book today, everyone who has one. Take a picture of yourself, take a selfie, post it to social media, tag Brian, and use the hashtag My Father Knew the Secret, right, Corey?
Right,
Yeah.
Tommy.
Let's get that hashtag trending today.
Let's get it trending. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So and the link we've posted in the chat will take you to Brian's website to get the book. And I am quite sure that whenever What's Next happens, you will let us know because we registered through your website, right?
I definitely will.
Okay, amazing. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much, Brian.
Hey, I got to ask you, Tommy. You got a cool announcement that you wanted to make. So
I do. Okay, so this is really fun. And we figured this out a couple of weeks ago. So we have a reading group. My husband Monty and I started a reading group a couple of months ago. We meet every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's called Manifesting with Friends, and that's MWF, Manifesting with Friends, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where we gather to read amazing books, in the development, spiritual space. And we just wrapped up a study of The Science of Getting Rich, or we're just about to, and I was like, well, what would I love to read next? And and this book was just coming out, and I was like, oh my God, I would love to read this book in our group. And then I said, what do you think, Brian? And you said, sure. So super happy to announce that we're going to be studying Brian's book in our reading group, Manifesting with Friends, starting next week, Monday, July 10th. We're going to study the whole thing. We're probably going to get into the workbook too, and just really make a show of it. And Brian, you even agreed to come on the first day and kick us off with the first reading, and that's going to be so cool. So really grateful for your, graciously allowing us to study your book and share this book in our group. I'm going to put the link to that in the chat. And what's really cool about our group is, like we mentioned at the beginning, you thought you wanted to come up with a way to get this information out in like kind of a low cost way. Well, we had the same idea when we started this group, and our group is pay what you want. So you can come into the group on a 90-day pass for as little as $1. It's pay whatever whatever you're inspired to pay. Some people are paying as much as $300 because they're just feel like, some people feel like the more you pay, the more you get out of it or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Pay whatever you want and come in and join us Monday morning, the 10th, as we kick off our study of this amazing book. And I couldn't be more excited about it. I think it's going to be so good.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Tommy. When you first asked me this, I thought, wow, that's a cool idea. And of course, you get me to read the first chapter, which is going to be.
I know. I couldn't read it though. I wouldn't. It's okay.
You know what? It's going to be a lot of fun, and I appreciate this whole idea around it. I think it's wonderful, and I think it's
going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. So, I can't wait to dive in. So thank you guys, for taking your time to do this today. And I know you wanted to and everything, but I just really appreciate that you wanted to do this with me and with us. So
I love you, Tommy, and we're glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Go get your selfies taken, get your books ordered if you don't have it already. And we'll see you hopefully Monday in our reading group.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Happy birthday, Bob. Love you, Brian and Corey.
Love you too,
Thanks,
Tommy.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.